Few people realize just how meticulously World War II air forces prepared for the worst-case scenario: an aircraft going down in freezing remote regions. While we often hear about pilot gear, parachutes and standard flight equipment, there was one kit specifically designed for survival in the Arctic. One that balanced compactness, versatility and sheer life-saving functionality. For the first minute, consider this. A pilot bails out over a snow-covered landscape where temperatures drop below -40 degrees. Wind whips across glaciers, and rescue could take days. In that moment, the difference between life and death is not luck. It's what's in the crash kit strapped to your back. These kits were engineered to provide shelter, warmth, signaling capabilities and emergency nutrition, all in a space small enough to remain airborne without interfering with controls or escape maneuvers. And understanding them today not only gives us historical insight, but also practical survival knowledge for extreme cold environments. The reason these Arctic crash kits were revolutionary is that they condensed multiple survival strategies into one compact package. Traditional pilot gear focused on immediate escape, but airmen realized that once they landed, survival meant more than just warmth. It meant preventing hypothermia, signaling for rescue, rationing scarce food, and, well, even managing basic medical needs. The kits typically contained insulated clothing layers, emergency rations, portable heating devices, signaling tools, and sometimes even small fishing or hunting implements. Every item was selected not just for survival, but for ease of use under extreme stress and sub-zero temperatures. The design emphasized redundancy. Multiple layers of heat, multiple ways to make fire, and multiple signaling options were the difference between waiting hours for rescue and surviving days alone on ice. How pilots use the kit to survive extreme cold after a crash is where, honestly, the genius of the design becomes clear. For example, insulated clothing wasn't bulky. It was made from lightweight wool and fur composites that, remarkably, retained heat even when damp. Emergency food rations were high-calorie, compact and non-perishable, often a combination of chocolate, pemmican and concentrated biscuits that could be eaten even when frozen. Small stoves or chemical heaters allowed for water melting and warming of rations. Pilots learned to dig shallow snow shelters, leveraging windbreaks and building mini igloos using snow blocks or compacted drifts. The crash kit's tools, like a collapsible saw or knife, turned survival into an organized process rather than a panicked scramble. You know, the science behind the heating and insulation strategies is really what made the kit effective in those life-or-death situations. Chemical heaters in the kits operated on oxidation reactions, often magnesium or iron filings mixed with salt or water, to produce heat without flames. This clever approach provided warmth even in wind tunnels or inside snow shelters, where fire could be, well, downright dangerous. The design of insulated clothing capitalized on trapped air pockets to reduce heat loss, and importantly, layered items allowed pilots to adjust insulation based on their activity levels. It was a simple yet highly effective system. These principles are, interestingly enough, identical to modern cold-weather survival strategies, but compressed into a historically innovative form. It's fascinating how some ideas truly stand the test of time. You know, the modern application of these World War II Arctic crash kit concepts is actually surprisingly accessible for bushcraft and extreme survival enthusiasts. Really, anyone planning a winter expedition, glacier trek, or an off-grid adventure can learn from the principles here, rather than just sticking to the exact items. So you start with layering base thermal layers, insulating mid-layers, and then a windproof outer layer. This setup pretty much mimics the original kit, but, well, you don't need any historical equipment to pull it off. Chemical hand warmers, high-calorie compact rations, and those nifty portable water-melting devices. These all replicate the stove and rationing logic, just in a more modern way. And, you know, even these signalling tools, mirrors, whistles, flares, they're still absolutely vital. By arranging these items in a compact, portable pack, you essentially recreate the functional philosophy of the World War II kit: mobility, redundancy, and above all, efficiency in extreme conditions. A practical example comes from testing modern bushcraft adaptations of the kit. Enthusiasts have found that using a combination of a lightweight bivy sack, chemical heat packs, and concentrated rations in sub-zero temperatures allows for effective solo survival without heavy tents or bulky stoves. By placing reflective surfaces inside snow shelters, heat retention doubles, echoing the chemical and reflective techniques pilots relied on. Even improvising a small snow windbreak can dramatically extend warmth from minimal heat sources, showing the logic behind the original Arctic crash kits. Control your environment, maximize limited resources, and always prepare for delayed rescue. Another key principle from these kits that translates directly to modern survival practice is redundancy. Pilots carried multiple water sources, sometimes powdered or freeze-dried, as well as chemical heaters and fire-starting tools. Modern enthusiasts can mimic this by carrying backup methods for heat, hydration, and signaling. A single failure should not compromise survival. By studying the historical kit, it's clear that redundancy is not just safety. It's a structured approach to extreme weather survival, which remains relevant whether in the Arctic, high-altitude mountains, or isolated forests. The historical and practical value of the Arctic crash kit is that it teaches preparation, compactness, and layered survival thinking. World War II pilots relied on small packs with precisely curated items to endure conditions that would otherwise be fatal. For historians, it's a glimpse into how ingenuity and necessity intersected. For survivalists, it's a blueprint for modern extreme environment strategy. If you found this deep dive into Arctic survival techniques compelling and want more historically grounded bushcraft insights, make sure you subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this video with someone who appreciates practical history. Learning from the past can be the difference between thriving and struggling in the wild.